Hello and welcome to the open session meeting of the Air Planning Board for October 11th, 2022. We will start with the agenda, and I'd like to suggest a few changes first before we approve it. Two things. One is, if you look at the meeting minutes, the August 9th meeting minutes aren't quite ready yet. We need to conclude it. So I want to defer that to our next meeting. But the August 23rd minutes should be ready. If they are, I'd like to see if we could vote and approve those today. The other thing I'd recommend that we do is that we consider deferring the discussion of conservation issues regarding Stratton Hill to the next meeting when we're actually going to have the Concom report in hand. I think it would be more important to do that then. What we can do, of course, and what's the bulk of our Stratton Hill discussion today, should be the traffic study and the peer review comments on those, and then we can also continue the discussion we started at our last meeting about the MISA and MIPA permits and our conversation with Natural Heritage. So with that said, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda with the chair's amendments.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Chair votes aye. It's unanimously approved. Thank you. First item of business is a public hearing for Platt Builders, and I have I'm going to open that and read the formal announcement for it. Jeff, is that okay if I read it?
Please go for it.
Okay. So, Air Planning Board Site Plan Public Hearing for Platt Builders, 109 Central Avenue. The Town of Air Planning Board will conduct an in-person public hearing at 6:15 p.m. on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022, in the first floor meeting room at the Air Town Hall regarding the application of Platt Builders for site plan approval for a property located at 109 Central Avenue. The applicant is seeking site plan approval from the Air Planning Board to enable Platt Builders to move into the existing buildings at 109 Central Avenue. No new buildings are proposed for the site, but Platt Builders seeks to move into the pre-existing non-conforming building as a change of use pursuant to Section 3.5A.1 of the Air zoning bylaws. Application and plans can be viewed at the offices of the Air Planning Board and Town Clerk at 1 Main Street, Town Hall, Air, Massachusetts, during normal business hours. I'd like to turn it over to Town Planner to set up the context for this discussion, and then we're going to hear from the applicant himself, Mr. Platt. Thank you.
Mr. Platt has been thinking about moving from Groton to Air, Massachusetts for probably over a year now, I think. And they've decided on 109 Central Avenue, which is the former location of Air Moving and Storage, which is the very big building just down the road. And this application falls under a change of use to a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And as far as I can tell, there's no expansion, extension, or alterations proposed that would make any of the non-conformities more non-conforming. The building was built, where it is, right up against the road, so that's what we have to deal with. But it looks to me like, a fairly simple site plan, despite the size of the building. I did calculate the number of parking spaces that they would be required to supply, and they fall right in the middle of the range, which is excellent as far as the minimum and the maximum that we specify. There have been reviewed by other departments, most of which have no comments. Dan Shalkwick, the DPW director, noted that the parallel parking spaces in front of the building are an improvement and were requested no comments. I found the application to be complete, except for a few items that Mr. Platt has requested waivers for. The waiver requests have to do with a stormwater report, and that is because they're proposing no external changes to the site or changes to the impervious surfaces. They're also requesting a waiver from a traffic study because, as you will read, it sounds like traffic will remain the same or perhaps be even less under their use compared to the prior use. And the third waiver request is for a photometric lighting plan. Though I believe Mr. Platt would like to describe the sort of external lighting that might go on the building. But as far as a photometric plan for the entire parking area, I think given the pre-existing non-conforming nature of the use, we don't really necessarily need that. I've written up one, if the board is willing to act on the plan this evening after all of this. I have one special condition and several of the generic, general conditions to propose along with the action. Also, I would add that Mr. Platt put together quite the comprehensive application package, which is in your packet, and it starts with checklist for submission. All of that is his work, including the table, which looks at all the dimensional requirements and describes whether they meet the underlying zoning or whether they're non-conforming due to the pre-existing nature of things. So
Excellent.
there's a lot in there, and hopefully, Mr. Platt can walk us through the process. Walk us through his project.
All right, thank you, Mark. Question about process. Should we first accept the application before hearing from Mr. Platt, or hear from Mr. Platt first and then vote on accepting the application?
It could be either way. It might be good to hear from Mr. Platt in case there's something we didn't anticipate.
Okay.
I can't think of anything.
All right, so Mr. Platt, you have the floor.
All right. Well, thank you. By way of introduction, my name is Halsey Platt. I started Platt Builders 30 years ago. We were initially in my house for the first 5 years in Groton, and then we moved to Adams Avenue. Adams Avenue is right in the center of town, sort of behind Filio's. It's a dead-end street. The street's not more than 30 feet wide. Residential neighborhood, and we've been there for 25 years and grown the company. And so we have grown to a point where we need more space both for our cabinetry manufacturing and also for offices. And so I've been looking, as Mark said, for quite some time, about 2.5 years now. Looked at some other properties in Ayer, found this one. I think it'll fit. And the underlying zoning works for cabinetry manufacturing, and so we purchased the building, and now we're before you. I think, as Mark said, we are really proposing no external changes. I colored this plan just to try to make this a little bit clearer. The green area is the only pervious area on the whole property. Everything else is paved. The heavy black lines are the buildings that you guys have seen. There is no change to any of the footprint there. We're not expanding any of that. And I've highlighted this blue area, which is the interior mezzanine that we're planning on building, right? And so we do need more office space than the front part of the building allows, but because of the 27-foot high ceilings inside, we can do all that internal to the building. And thus, as Mark said, my request for a waiver on the stormwater, we're not changing anything. Somebody pointed out to me that the one improvement that we've made is we have eliminated the diesel fuel tank that used to be on the south side of the building. It was just an external single-walled above-ground fuel tank. That's now gone. We are not going to put that back. And Heather Hansen was Hampson. Oh,
Here she is.
pleased with that. That was all upgradient of the wetlands. So that I'm happy to sort of go into plenty of detail, but also heard the request to keep the presentation short. So happy to answer questions.
What's the time frame?
If once we receive approval, we're going to then immediately apply for the building permit. We've been talking with the building inspector, and we would hope to then get moved in sometime February of next year. So we'd like to move pretty quickly.
I don't have any direct questions, so I want to open it up to my colleagues on the board if you have any questions for Mr. Platt. Nathan?
I guess I would just like to hear a little bit more about the lighting changes.
Sure. This is an exterior elevation of the building, and this is the Central Avenue side. There are some existing downlights here on the side of the building. Really planning on leaving those. We will probably add some sort of light here above this entrance door. Probably something here above this entrance door, but other than that, really not planning on changing the lighting. We really operate, from what the shop typically starts about 6:30 in the morning. The office staff, oftentimes, whatever staggers, they get out of there between 4:30 and 6:30 at night, and so really no nighttime operation. So we certainly want the building to be secure for our employees, particularly during the winter time. But apart from that, no real lighting changes planned.
Okay. So just no parking lot lighting, really just two doors. It's going to be really small.
Yep.
Anyone else? Julie? Jeff?
No, thank you.
Mr. Diskin?
I'd just like to comment on a little follow-up to what Mark said about the quality of the application. We appreciate that kind of quality and effort. It's a good indicator that the applicant is in tune with what we require and shows an extra step to make it look very, very clean cut in the application, so thank you for that.
I didn't know there was an alternative.
Well, there are always alternatives that shouldn't be taken.
So, Mr. Platt, this is your first time before this board?
It is.
We get a lot of repeat business.
Okay.
We've been working on them for a long time.
Got it.
So, yeah, it's well
Well,
thought
thank
of. I guess the only thing I would say is that it appears that you've worked with Mark in advance and we've got a good application. I don't see any shortcomings in what we're trying to do here. If you want to just give us a little explanation of the restriping of the parking, maybe that was something
Oh,
we
that's
could
good, yeah.
Yep,
consider.
absolutely. At the far left of the building on the screen, that parking is staying sort of substantially as it is. In the photograph that Mark put into the summary, there then is angled parking that currently backs out onto Central Avenue along that sort of first 135 feet. When we did a site walk, the director of the DPW requested that we make those, eliminate the backing out onto Central Avenue, because the speed tends to pick up at that point on Central Avenue. And so if we put parallel parking all the way along there, we have enough parking for our needs, and it eliminates that issue. And then we do have additional parking into the building on the right-hand side, and then around the backside. And so around the backside, those angled parking spaces, we imagine, that's where a number of the office employees will park back there. Yep, down there.
Were those spaces drawn up in accordance with our standards for a parking space by the engineer?
They are 9 by 18.
9 by 18,
Yep.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yep. And my, from what I observed over the time that we were then starting to, watch the activity, my perspective is that we will have substantially less truck traffic, and we've left the space open between the two buildings, because that's where we imagine we will get shipments in and do the unloading. But most of our traffic is then vehicular, regular passenger vehicles.
And, excuse me, the roof overhang,
That's existing.
yes, exactly, but that's the loading dock area of the building, the existing
Yep,
building.
that
Just
is.
so people
Yep.
might not be familiar
Right,
with it.
and we do not have a lot of client visits. Right now at our current offices, we probably have one meeting at the office per week where, we're not a retail operation. Certainly, we hope that will increase, but if that tripled, that would be 3 visits a week.
Okay, great. Any other questions? I would entertain,
The first motion should be to accept the
exactly,
I'd like
that's
to
what I'm
move
going
to-
to.
Yes, and second would be on the waivers.
I'd like to move to accept the application for consideration.
Oh, we have a question. We'll get to deliberation in a moment,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd like to move to accept the application for consideration from, I'm looking for Flat Builders for 109 Central Avenue.
Seconded.
Seconded. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. It has been accepted. Now this is a period deliberation. What we did was accept the application, doesn't mean we approved. I just want to explain that to the people attending. Yes, sir.
Probably best to go to comments first before
That's
we
real.
act on the waivers.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yes.
I saw a hand up in the back. Could you identify yourself and your address and?
Good evening, through the chair. I'm Beth Sidmeyer in Nashua Street. And I appreciate the application and the fact that Flat Builders will be coming to Ayer. I think it's exciting opportunity, very reputable company. I did just want to inquire, because I didn't see anything on the plans about landscaping changes. You have a site that's almost entirely impervious, and there's tremendous potential, I think, to try and balance that out and have a site that better enhances the community and your property, as well as helps to infiltrate on site to a greater extent than it does now. And I know you're not proposing a lot of those changes because it's the easiest approach to have a light hand as you undertake this transition. But I did just want to point out there are a lot of invasive species in the existing planting bed that is there. It would be nice to enhance those, remove those, enhance those. I don't think it would require any additional permitting. But additionally, to reduce and remove some of the impervious area at a point in the future would very much be desirable from a community aesthetic and the opportunity to infiltrate more runoff on the site. We also have a pilot project that's being spearheaded right now, a pocket park initiative. We're working with Devon's and consultants and the town of Ayer through Alan Minoyan as the point person in the community. And this might be a nice site to identify as a public-private partnership for a pocket forest location. They're located in between, a commercial and industrial site, in between the railroad and residences, and located, very desirable location to do something like that. So I just wanted to put that recommendation out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sotomayor. Any other comments?
That's a great idea.
Okay.
Can I just say, this grant money that the town has had, it's a great reminder that we can use it for other things. We got like a $250,000, right? 250,000 was the first. Anyway, love the idea.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the waivers. And I just want to put that set of context for waivers is that I think this board has been moving toward a process where we accept two reasons for a waiver. One is that in the context, the requirement is simply irrelevant. And that's one context for a waiver. The other is that the waiver is a substantial material benefit to people with Ayer. I suspect that in these three waivers, it's the former. They're just not relevant to this site plan. And from my opinion, it makes sense, but I open up the floor for deliberation. I believe you have to vote on each one of them one by one, individually, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But can we have the deliberation about all three up front?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. As I said, I think the waivers seem reasonable given the context of building that with no material changes to the footprint or the structure or the location. So stormwater report, traffic study, and photometric, I think really aren't required here, but I'm willing to entertain, of course I entertain any divergence of opinion.
I'll make a motion that we waive the stormwater report, item number 1 in Mark's page 3, that's required for a site plan approval for this site.
Thank you, Ken. Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor of the waiver?
Any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, first discussion. Any discussion about waiving the stormwater report requirement?
Yeah, I think the reason I made the motion is because of the fact that this site plan went through in 2004. And I believe it was approved by a planning board in 2004, therefore had whatever the mass DEP requirements would have been in 2004 for stormwater containment, stormwater, runoff and whatnot on the site. Now, that's a guess, because the people currently, before that owned the building, could have added pavement on their own and not come back to a planning board. But my motion is based on the fact that, it's been looked at by Charlie Schultz in that regard and came in with no comments and whatnot. So I think we can waive the stormwater report based on the fact that we had a previous site plan approved on the project.
Any other comments?
No.
Anything, Jeff, did you have something?
No, thank you. I think Mr. Diskin wrapped it up nicely.
Then we can go to a vote then. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. The stormwater report is waived. Traffic study. May I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the waiver request to not have a traffic study for this project.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
As far for deliberation, I'd like to read the comment. I believe this is from Mr. Platt. Our use will be fewer trucks in and out on a daily basis than they are moving and storage at, and will be more focused on employee vehicles. We are requesting this waiver because we believe that our proposed use will have less of an impact on the neighborhood than the prior use.
And if I may,
Please, sir.
In response to the DPW's request to change the angular parking on Central Avenue to parallel parking along the front of the building, I think Mr. Platt and his organization has already worked with the town on that.
Any further comments? Yes, sir, Nathan.
I'll just make it quick, relative to some of the things we talked about recently. I'll just make a recommendation that whatever you can do to encourage your employees to walk, bike, not use their cars,
Bike rack.
share,
Should add a bike
would
rack.
be excellent.
We have intentionally put showers inside. We've got one of our employees who lives in Nashua, currently bikes to work because our current facility is right on the rail trail, and he was rather pleased that this was just an extension.
He can still take the rail trail.
Exactly.
We've actually put together a route that he can follow from here to there.
Okay.
And Central Ave has been painted for it. We have sharrows now.
I saw that it just got repaved. It's excellent.
Okay, good. Further comments? Time to vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. We're going to waive the traffic study.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the photometric lighting plan requirement for this
Seconded.
project.
Any discussion?
Can I make a comment? So I think in good faith here, we need to explain that if we did a typical site plan for new, that we might be looking for parking lot lighting that's, around the edge of the parking lot. But it appears from the lighting that's on the building that it's adequately lit in your estimation. And typically we would do it as a safety measure, but it doesn't appear that we need to do that here. So photometric analysis of the parking lot would be really over the top at this point in time.
And Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure.
As our initial focus is certainly on getting the interior mezzanine built, getting the shop fit out and being able to get in there. As we do move in, so the answer is yes, we want to make the building attractive. We want to improve the impervious area, the planting that is there. If we wanted to at some point then light that for really just aesthetic reason, should we then come back to the planning board? Or is that something we would handle with the building inspector? I'd love some guidance, because yes, this is my...
I believe that would be a building inspector matter. One condition I could think of for this project would be if you're proposing any changes that increase any of the nonconformities, setbacks, parking, whatever it is, then you would come back to the planning board. But otherwise, I think it could be dealt with in the building department.
And if I may also make a comment associated with that, you hear Mr. Platt say he might be interested in changing some of the plantings and stuff like that. I think Ms. Sudamara's comment is a very valuable comment, that you're going to end up with the Concom because you're in the setbacks over there.
Right.
And as a neighbor, on a personal note, I look at your building from my breakfast table and my bedroom,
Oh, excellent.
all the way across the pond. And I would actually fight tooth and nail against any kind of raised lighting in that parking lot, because we got a lot at this point.
Yep.
So I appreciate the downlighting may be improved on the side of the building, but that's safety and necessary.
Good. Excellent. Any further discussion of the photometric plan waiver? We have a comment from Ms. Sudamar.
Excuse me again, Beth Sidmeyer. Just a comment that a condition that the board may want to consider that if any future lighting changes would be made, that the lighting would be dark sky compliant, meeting those requirements.
That's already in our...
It is a standard, okay, perfect,
Thank you.
thank
For
you.
site plan.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Ready for, I will accept the vote now. All those in favor of the waiver for the photometric?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. Now we move into the
Right. The
general and the specific conditions.
Right, well, actually, firstly would be the findings. The board would find that under section 3.54 of the air zoning bylaw, that the proposal meets the site plan criteria for that, which
Oh,
are
okay.
on page 4. Very, basic site plan criteria.
Can the chair make the motion? or-
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board finds that the criteria for site plan approval as described in section 354 of the air zoning bylaw has been met for this application.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Chair
Aye.
votes aye, it's unanimous, the finding is unanimous, thank you.
Okay, now I will read the proposed special condition and the general conditions.
Thank you.
See if the board agrees or wants to add
You have a
it.
copy, that's good.
So just so everybody knows, as part of any site plan and subdivision review, we typically have what's known as general conditions, which really apply for any project, like, clean up the dust after the end of the workday, adhere to any local, state and federal permitting, very generic stuff. I'll read through the list quickly. And then on top of the general conditions, we often add special conditions which are unique to that application. And sometimes for site plans and subdivisions, we have quite a lengthy list of those special conditions. But given the pre-existing non-conforming nature of this application, I have one recommendation. So I'll read the special condition I was proposing first. Any proposed changes that would increase any of the existing nonconformities of the lot and/or building shall require consultation with the planning board prior to such work. The planning board may require a site plan amendment or direct the owner to meet with another board or agency of the town if applicable. So that's, if they propose any changes that would increase nonconformities, that would come in. As far as the general conditions, it's in the back of the packet for this one too. First one references that the application and the plan sheet are part of the conditions by default. Number 2 basically reiterates the special conditions that if there are any modifications or changes to the plan, they come back to us. Third one is if they deviate from the site plan approval, they could be subject to enforcement action. Number 4 is the applicant shall comply with all applicable local, state, and federal laws, regulations, etc. Number 5 is if applicable, copies of the following state and federal permits shall be submitted, such as DEP stormwater, NIPD's, sewage disposal works, DEP permits. Number 6, the applicant shall obtain a building permit prior to construction. Whoops, I need to change that. As you can see,
Just
sometimes
prior to
when
construction
you copy
period.
and paste, yeah.
So it's prior to construction strike of the solar array complex.
Exactly.
Okay,
You
thank
can
you.
tell
sir.
which one I was referring to there. Number 7, prior to the commencement of authorized site activity, the applicant shall provide the building inspector and planning board the names of contact people who would be responsible for that. Number 8, members or agents of the planning board shall have the right to enter the property to ensure compliance. The applicant and/or property owner shall provide 24-hour notice to pertinent town departments, including the building inspector, prior to commencing any work on the site that requires inspections or review. Man, there's more of these than I thought. Number 10. Oh, it's just talking about things like cleaning the snow, interior improvements are privately done, not the responsibility of the town. Number 11 is just complying with the state building code and getting a certificate of occupancy. Number 12 has to do with hours of construction, which are really not applicable here for interior. Number 13, I left in there just in case. I'm not sure if there'll be any sediment tracked onto Central Avenue. So, but if there is, you gotta sweep it. And 14 is to take care of litter. So those are the general. I don't know if people want to add to my one special condition.
I have no additions.
All right.
Rest of the board,
Good with that.
good?
This, Mr. Platt,
Yeah, I think.
you have a copy of this or not?
I actually did not find a copy, but as I listened to all of those, that
Actually, that's what this is.
No.
No.
Oh, I'm
It
sorry.
was a separate sheet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cross
I,
out the wrong section.
but,
yeah.
right, we are certainly used to, thank you, conditions from the town for
Right.
various
Yeah.
residential construction projects. None of these seem onerous.
And what happens, for your information, is after the board's decision, I write up a notice of decision with all of this in it, and it goes to you. And,
Whose phone is this?
Sorry.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any discussion?
Just minor. It does appear that the special is it duplicate to number 2 and 3.
Possibly, but I like keeping it
Just seems
because
like
it was a non-conforming use.
Or
and
restating.
It gives us a little bit,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I get your emphasizing it.
protection, I guess.
So let's vote. All those in favor of approving the application for Platt Builders, 109 Central Avenue?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said yes, but
Oh.
Nathan has a.
Just one.
Wait, I'm sorry?
Sorry. One clarity. Are we doing both the general and the special? All
Yeah, you could
third
say
ones?
approve with the special condition and general conditions as read into the record.
Yeah, that would be a great way. Could whoever made the first motion amend it to include these?
I did.
No, you, good.
I'll make a motion, amended motion, that the Town of Air Planning Board approve the site plan approval for Platt Builders, 109 Central Ave, in accordance with the general conditions and special conditions discussed at this meeting, and also the waivers that were approved at this meeting, including those waivers. Waivers, yes.
Excellent. And the second?
Seconded.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair
Yes.
votes aye. It's unanimously approved. Congratulations, Mr. Platt.
Welcome to Ayer.
Well,
Thank you. It's a lovely
Spelled
welcome.
the wrong word on that paper, but you can keep it.
Thank
As
you.
long as you don't look at my copy.
Thank you all very much.
You're very welcome.
I'm not gonna read it later.
Say, we'll continue public hearing. Continue public hearing. Let's try that.
No, you should close the public hearing now.
This is
Oh,
Platt.
first.
No, Platt, what about Platt? Was that a hearing or just a?
Yeah,
Close
yeah,
the public
yeah,
hearing.
close the public hearing.
So I need a motion.
Move to
Yes.
close public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It is closed. To continue the other public hearing, we just.
Move
Like
to
this
continue the
is
public
just-
hearing
Yeah, we're going to continue the
for
public.
Stratton
hearing.
Hill preliminary subdivision plan, 35 lots off of Wright Road. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I may ask you to, we've had many people from the public join us since the meeting was called to order. You may want to let them know that the agenda has been modified. So if they're here for the second bullet
Yeah,
point on the agenda,
I will take that out.
they'll know that we're not discussing it this evening.
Yeah, so pursuant to Mr. Tillotson's observation, earlier when we approved the agenda, we made modifications. And we're going to defer the discussion of conservation issues until the next meeting when we have the official report from the Conservation Commission. That said, we will discuss the traffic study and we will continue our discussion of the MISA and NEPA permits. Who's not to vote, did we? Did we just open?
We didn't get a second.
Yeah, okay, good. So, do we have representatives of Vanessa and?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
And Nitch. So what I'd like, yes, thank you. So what I'd like to do is our town planner, Mr. Archambault, will just set up the context for the discussion. Then we'll turn to the representative from Vanessa to discuss the traffic study, and then we're going to turn to a representative of Nitch Consultants to talk about their review of that study. Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion?
Mr.
Forgive me.
Collins, please.
But before we do that, we've made a couple of very minor revisions that I'd like Stan to go over with you. As
Revisions
far
to
as the
what?
layout, the
To
plan.
itself, which,
You know,
Doesn't change anything that will deal with the traffic, but it would be a worthwhile thing for you to see
Just
those.
to show you how we reconfigured.
And it'd be 5 minutes.
if it can be quick.
if
Yeah.
you can be quick, my original, I recognize that that's going to be submitted. My original thought was to defer that discussion But because sometimes that can open up a very lengthy discussion when we see changes, and that could be opening up something. And I just want to be fair to the representatives of the
yes.
traffic study report,
Okay.
that
What's-
they'd be able to
what's
do
their-
their work and get home.
Yeah, but
Is that
we'll be
fair?
real quick.
We could do it after the if there's time.
Can we do the?
Well, we
after
could do it
traffic?
after,
Yeah, I would
sure.
prefer that.
And that
yes.
would be fine,
Thank you.
sure.
So we will not neglect that, but we're going to put it after.
Okay.
Okay. Now I have to put in another flash drive for.
We should hold on.
Almost
Chair
at the
for you.
technology where you can just beam it.
Is that
there.
going to take a minute? Because
This is the end of these things.
if you'll ex-
Yes.
I'm going to,
We've
I'm
never
going
gotten
to,
involved.
I'm going to call a 5-minute recess while he's setting this up. 5 minutes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I do just want to say I'm sorry about the cabinet. I know it's a lot smaller than what.
person had anything bad to say.
I'm gonna call.
Never seen that.
He's got a commercial dust extraction system in that building that doesn't create a mess outside the building. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. We are back to order.
No, that's right.
And I'm going to start. The town planner is just going to explain the context for the traffic study, then we'll turn it over to the representative from Vanessa. Thank you.
Okay, as usual for large subdivisions, the planning board requires traffic studies, as we've done for every large subdivision in the past. And typically, when we have presentations like this, the traffic consultant who is hired by the applicant provides their presentation first, and that is, I forgot your name.
Derek Roach.
From Vanessa and Associates. And we also have a peer reviewer, Brian Zamoka from Niche Engineering, who the planning board hired as its peer review consultant to oversee the traffic study review process. So we will start out with the applicant's traffic study analysis, and then followed by our peer reviewer, and then discussion in general.
All right. So, for the record, my name's Derek Roach. I'm Senior Transportation Engineer, Professional Engineer in Massachusetts. Senior Transportation Engineer with Vanessa and Associates. So yes, we did the traffic study. As you guys probably know, the project is for 33 single-family units and 4 duplex units. So we looked at the trip generation for that, as you can see here in the table. We're looking at 29 weekday morning peak hour trips, 37 weekday evening peak hour trips, and 40 Saturday midday peak hour trips. In terms of daily trips, 394 during the weekday daily, and 364 on Saturday during the entire day. So this is the study area. You see, we looked at 1, 2, 3, 4 intersections, including this fourth one's our access out onto Wright Road. The site is there, outlined for you guys. We did the capacity analysis. You look at this little table, it might be a little small, but it goes AM, PM Saturday, descending, and it goes existing, no build, and build, left to right. As you can see, the project, which would be the final column here, doesn't change the level of service for any of the locations that we looked at. Moving on, so in terms of recommendations and conclusions,
I didn't understand what the A and A minus meant.
Right.
That's level of service.
It's the A minus isn't a minus. It's that they're. Go back to it for a second. Sorry. So it's that there's 2 locations, right?
Oh, is that what that is?
Or 2 movements. I think it's 2 movements. Sorry, not locations. So it'd be for a left and a right movement.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, let me check the level of service table here.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Just so we're all clear on this, when you say level of service, could you do a quick definition? What do you mean by level of service? Please?
Yeah, so level of service, it looks at the average delay a vehicle experiences going through that particular movement that we're looking at. And those level of services are broken out into category A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Mm-hmm.
I believe A is 0 to 10 seconds of delay. B would be 10 to 25-ish,
So
and
B
so
would
on
be
and so
longer.
forth.
Yeah, we go. So basically, what you're saying, when you say level of service, what you're actually talking about is the capacity of the road and the road's ability to handle vehicular traffic at a given point in time.
Correct.
Thank you.
Right. And so these are during the weekday morning, weekday evening, and Saturday
Mhm.
midday peak hours.
And this suggests that level of service won't change.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, when we look at these tables of 9, 3 by 3 here, we're comparing it to the chart to the right. So we're saying the existing condition is an A, it stays at A right across, is what you're basically saying.
Right across, right.
Doesn't change as it goes across.
Correct. And the minus here is that under existing conditions, there's just one left-right movement, and then it becomes a two different lanes, a left and a right under build conditions. And so that's not a minus, it's just there's not a value for that.
So the A
For
would be for a
comparison.
single lane.
Right.
When it's fully built out, there's
A left and a
a
right.
boulevard coming down to both sides.
Right.
Oh,
So
I get
two-
it. Okay,
Two arteries, if you will, are taking care of the traffic at the end of the project.
thank you.
Two driveways. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time on that.
Not a problem.
I think I know what I'm looking at, that's- but I don't think everyone in the room knows what you're looking at.
So moving on to the recommendations and conclusions, as we said, we don't expect to have a significant increase in delay due to the project traffic. Based on the volumes I said, between 29 and 40 vehicles per hour, which is 1 to 2 vehicles per minute during the peak times. As we just saw, the project doesn't change the level of service at any of the locations studied. In terms of parking, we looked at the parking. The proposed parking supply is consistent with the minimum parking requirements of section 9.1.2, required off-street parking spaces of the town zoning ordinance. We looked at the lines of sight at the project roadway where it intersects Wright Road to see if there's a appropriate available site distance for people to make safe maneuvers. There's some vegetation there that's existing. If that vegetation is trimmed, then there's adequate sight lines to have safe maneuvers through that location. The project will employ a TDM program, which is a transportation demand management program, to encourage the use of alternative transportation. Property management team will, this is sort of part of that TDM program. The property management team will provide information on available pedestrian and bicycle facilities in the vicinity of the project site. They will provide that in a welcome packet to new residents. And the applicant is willing to provide monetary contribution towards traffic calming measures in the area. And I will say that NISH did review. They provided one comment letter. We've provided a response letter. They have then provided a second comment letter, and we'll hear from him shortly. But based on what I've read of that, they seem to have been satisfied with our responses and have left a discussion between our team and the board in terms of the appropriate mitigation for the project.
So Derek, one of the large concerns raised by the community is about pedestrian and bicyclist safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you could talk about what you learned about what your counts for bicycles and pedestrians and what your concluding opinion about their safety.
Yeah, so figures 5 and 6 of the traffic study show the existing pedestrian and bicycle traffic that we counted.
That's the full study.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the full study, yes.
You don't have that to show.
I
on the
don't
board.
have that for a slide, no, unfortunately.
What I noticed is that everything was in low single digits.
Correct, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think there's anything.
What's
With the exception of Saturday bicycle traffic, I think we hit almost 20.
Not from what I'm seeing here.
Okay. The
The highest I'm seeing is a 7.
Oh, on the weekend or weekday?
This is on Saturday.
Okay.
So I mean, maybe
I may
the
be confusing two
well,
studies,
the
yeah.
addition of all of
Yeah.
at the one location might be close to 20,
Yeah.
but for any individual movement,
Mhm.
I'm not seeing higher than 7.
So I guess this
May
is
have been
a
in
deliberately leading question. So in your research, did you conclude that there would be a significant impact on pedestrian cyclist safety, or no significant impact on bicyclists and pedestrian
No
safety?
significant impact.
Thank you. Yes.
Similarly, when you show it in the traffic study for cars, right, we simulate how many cars we will increase by, right, the traffic count.
Right.
Do you do that same mock-up for pedestrians and bikes?
Typically, that's not in the state requirements for traffic studies. There are certain municipalities that require that type of analysis. That was not done for this location.
Because if we're encouraging through pamphlets to the new neighbors, which I'm glad we would encourage people to bike and walk,
Right. I mean, I can say that based on the vehicle chip generation,
Yep.
29 to 40, you're only taking a percentage of that would be converted during the peak hours. So you're probably looking at 10 at most,
Okay.
if you guys do a good job with your PTDM.
And I bet that's generous.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's probably
Also
generous.
TDM.
That's what I'm saying. You have to do very good with the TDM program to.
Does everyone
Probably
here
get
know
that
what a TDM program is?
Right.
Could you just explain?
Yeah,
briefly?
I said it earlier. The TDM is transportation demand management. So it's strategies that are employed to get users of the site to not come in a single occupant vehicle. Either do high occupancy vehicle, carpool with someone, come on a bike, come via transit, train, bus, or walk if you can.
Okay.
So.
Basically multimodal,
Any-
non-vehicular.
Any questions?
I have one
So-
question if you don't mind.
Yep, so I'll do Jeff first and Ken.
Thank you. Fourth point down, lines of sight.
Mm-hmm.
The existing vegetation on site, do we know if that is actually on the property that is
To my
underneath the control of the proponent, or is it neighbor property? Do you know?
To my understanding, that is on our site, and we can
Okay.
trim that.
So that's just basically what's been allowed to grow there over the years?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ken?
Are you just saying, you're talking about this TDM, that's a model program that Vanessa develops on their own and then gives to the applicant, and the applicant adapts it to the neighborhood, is that what we're saying?
So we provided a few specifics in the updated traffic study.
Okay.
In the conclusion section on page 25, transportation demand management plan. I can read off the few things that we have here if you would like. As I said in there, we'll provide a welcome packet to all residents detailing available public transportation service, bicycle, walking alternatives, and commuter options that are available. In order to encourage the use of public transit, the property management team will make available public transportation schedules, availability, carpool, van pool, resources that may be available to residents, which will be posted in a centralized location. The property management team will provide information on available pedestrian bicycle facilities in the vicinity of the project. This information will also be posted, or will be provided in the welcome packets.
So to
Right.
be included in the market.
So it's
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
so those are the transportation demand management strategies that are proposed for this site.
Okay, so, through the chair, to Bob, I think we heard a discussion before that the project most likely would be done in phases.
yeah.
So if, in the event that the project only builds, 6 or 7 houses
But that's correct.
a
Yeah.
year, it's like a 5-6 year build out, the traffic would be mitigated quite a bit in those first few years, obviously, because they're not gonna go right to the count right away, but your study is based on a full build out.
It's based on a full build out and a 7-year horizon.
Okay, all right,
So the build condition is, I believe, 2029.
okay, yep. Well, I understood that, but I wasn't sure if you were aware of the fact that it might take that many years to actually put the houses in place.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Does the public have any questions for?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Nathan, I didn't
I
realize.
didn't- I
Nathan, you
didn't-
get the floor.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Just in the process, it's more process question for preliminary design, detailed design. These 2 recommendations, what I'm hearing is TDM and the calming measures.
Mhm.
When I just want to make sure we capture those, so that when we come to special conditions, that's carried through. So is that going to be preliminary or detailed, and who's carrying that through?
Yeah, that should definitely be in your special conditions.
Oh, yeah.
In the definitive plan, so,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yes, I
making-
mean, well, we
making
can
sure it's
reference it in
captured, and
conditions
Mark's going to
for
get it
the-
into our special conditions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what's being asked for, is just make
Right.
sure you flag it so that we remember
Yes, we
to
don't
have it
forget it,
included.
yes.
Thank you.
And is that preliminary or that'll be detailed?
That would be
Definitive.
more, I think, the definitive stage.
I would think
but,
it would be stuff we would submit with the definitive.
Yeah.
Right, because you're cognizant of the need.
Yeah,
and so-
that's right.
Okay.
Got it.
Excellent. I'm sorry, anyone else on the board have questions for Derek? Anyone in the public like to pose a question?
Thought you'd go to Mitch next.
We'll
Yeah.
go to Mitch in a moment. This will be very, yes, please. And
Two
then,
things. The a dead-end street. It's not, you can get to the commuter rail, but you have to get to the commuter rail. You're not gonna, you know, it's the TDM, I don't know, are those measures applicable to a dead-end, tiny little road? Also, yeah, the bridge, hold on, let me think, I had it. Sorry, I'm a little bit, the traffic count numbers during peak hours, pedestrian-wise, they were low, single digits?
Correct.
And that's just during peak hours?
Correct.
I look out my front window between the hours of 6:30 and 7. In the summer months, there's 5 people that walk and run and bike just in half an hour before the traffic count was, before the peak hour was started. So,
Well, they did do counts, Stephanie.
Yeah, we
Mr.
did
Collins.
counts from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., so we would have missed the 6:30 a.m., but the reason we do 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. is because that corresponds with the peak hours of the traffic around on the roadways. So 6:30 would be further outside of that, so hopefully there would be less traffic on the road. That's why there's more people potentially moving, taking their runs in the morning.
I think people go out before work. I mean, I know Jan, she walks dogs all day long, so she's out not between 7 and 9 and 4 to 6. So I don't know. I guess I just have a problem with the times of day only being limited to that, because there's a lot of people, a lot of activity, and you're going to increase all of this traffic, and that's only going to increase the pedestrian traffic as well. So, yeah, there's my 2 cents.
Thank you, noted. Jess?
I would just like to support Stephanie's comment. It seems that there's a reasonableness to taking the traffic counts during those morning rush hour, evening return times, but it does not make sense to me to do pedestrian traffic counts at the same time, because basically most of your pedestrians have gone off in their cars to work. And like Stephanie says, not only during the day, but also in the evening, I'm always dodging people walking their dogs after they've gotten home. And it seems to me it makes much more sense to do a pedestrian count outside of those rush hours than at the same time. That just makes no sense to me.
Can I let Derek respond?
Yeah, happy to respond to that. So the idea is that we want to analyze the time that the site's going to create the most vehicle traffic, right? And so that is between those peak commuting hours. It's a residential site. That's when people are exiting and leaving. And so you want to compare the vehicle traffic at that time as well as the pedestrian and bicycle traffic at that same time. What you don't want to do is compare the pedestrian traffic at 12 in the afternoon to the vehicle traffic at 7 in the morning, because you're not that condition doesn't exist. So you want to look at the peak times, and the peak times happen to be 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 and 4 to 6. That's the standard for the state interpretive traffic guidelines for residential sites.
Beth?
That's Ayer, Nashua Street. I wonder if any of the traffic calming measures have been discussed, the off-site traffic calming measures that the developer would be contributing to improve along this, very small street. The idea of chicanes and leaving the traffic to help slow it down comes to mind for me, and also being able to allow bump outs with vegetated buffers and things like that. But I think that with such a small street, the limitation is really needing to figure out a way to prioritize the pedestrian and the bicycle traffic safely. And so I think, really good conversations with DPW and the developer about, really maximizing both dedicated uses, having dedicated bicycle and pedestrian routes on the road as well as vehicular. And I think that in a lot of locations, you'd probably be able to get the vehicular traffic down to one lane with pull-offs whenever you meet traffic, so that you can then prioritize more of the bicycle and pedestrian safety. So I'm just kind of like throwing out ideas just to get, people's wheels turning if they haven't gotten this far yet. I don't know what kind of traffic calming measures have been proposed. I couldn't find the traffic analysis online. But, for both of the consultants, with a lot of experience and good ideas, I am concerned about on such a narrow roadway, being able to prioritize, say, bicycle and pedestrian accommodations and slowing the traffic. So.
Thank you, Beth. Do you want to respond?
I just want to assure you, Beth, that this is, we're still in the preliminary plan, right? Okay, so I can assure you that we will work closely with DPW on every aspect of Wright Road that's in our jurisdiction. Unfortunately, some of it's not in our jurisdiction, but we are going to take a look at the whole neighborhood as far as safety is concerned. Definitely when we get to the definitive plan. There won't be anything left out that we can take a look at.
Right, but that's why, the ability for the applicant, the developer to contribute to the
Yeah.
whole right corridor improvements are what I wasn't sure if that was already in, like their possible proposals were in the report or not.
If I may.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Joe.
Yeah, Beth, the other thing is, there was, and I can't quote it right now, but in the originally accepted plan from 2004 to 2006, I think it's when Mr. Collins was here with that, there already is in place an agreement between the proponent and the town at that point. So we just haven't gotten to the definitive stage yet. So yeah, it's queued up and sitting there. Right roads are challenging. I like your ideas of pull-offs and stuff.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Derek, thank you. I'd like to give the representative from Niche the opportunity to present. If there are further comments or questions from the public, they can make those after a presentation from Niche. Thank you. Is there a screen for the gentleman?
Yeah, do you need,
Oh, no, this is going to be brief.
Oh, okay, so, sir, if you would...
For the record, my name is
Brian.
Brian Janoka from Niche Engineering. I'm a senior project manager. So we conducted the peer review for the traffic study, and when we do our peer reviews, we look for two things. We look for if everything's compliant with traffic engineering standards and if it addresses the concerns of the town. When we were retained by the town, we had a meeting with them and listened to some of the concerns. One of the concerns was the study area wasn't large enough, so we recommended that they expand the study area, and Vanessa actually jumped on board really quick because we were retained right before Labor Day. The concern was that there was going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic associated with the beach. They studied 7 to 9 and 4 to 6, as Derek mentioned, are standard periods. And then it was requested that the midday, 12 to 2, was also studied to try to understand that pedestrian traffic associated with the beach. Now we've all seen that the pedestrian traffic is low, so they've covered that. So they studied Calvin Street and Sandy Hill Road, Standish Street and Wright Road.
Snake Hill Road.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Sandy Pond and Snake Hill are two roads, just conflict.
Gotcha.
And these folks live on those roads, so that's okay, Brian.
Thank you. And we also looked into the mitigation measures that were recommended by the town. Looked at the Wright Road improvements, the spot grades, and the low intensity. Vanessa provided responses for these, and we said, given the use and the small amount of traffic that this is going to develop, that not all of them are warranted. However, we do recommend that further discussion be had with the town to see if anything can come to agreement. And then the last thing was the TDM measures, which were discussed. They weren't in the initial study, and when they were provided, we said that so the TDM measures that are recommended by the NPO, through the state, through local federation, they are kind of recommendations, and you kind of pick and choose from different ones that are appropriate for your area. And given the nature of this use, given the location, we feel that the 3 measures and the ones that they presented here are sufficient for the project.
So overall, is Nitch satisfied that the report was, the methodology was sound and its conclusions are reasonable?
The revised report is.
Yes, the revised.
The revised one meets traffic engineering standards, and we believe addresses the comments and concerns raised by the planning board.
Thank you. Do members of the planning board have any questions for the gentleman? Or comments? Julie?
I think it's important, as you mentioned, about the beach traffic and what we talked about, that we had a significant change to the beach situation that same weekend.
That was the next weekend.
It was the following weekend? I guess that's, I think that's important to address here regardless. So it was still green but open?
It was open.
The counts are taken August 25th and August 27th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Prior
think
to
it's
the
important
thing.
to distinguish, right? We
Yes.
all know we are
Sandy
living
Pond
in
had an
a,
algae bloom.
and it's
Okay.
toxic.
Shortly after that.
Right.
Okay.
And
No offense,
the
but-
pond is still closed.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Well,
I
it
think
was-
that's important.
No, it is important, yes.
putting up signs.
We can't talk beach traffic and not recognize that it has significantly
It
changed very
changed.
quickly around here. So thank you, I wanted just to make sure we
Good.
looked at which
Julie.
weekend that was.
Like I said, we understand the concerns of the town with pedestrian traffic, but the counts that were provided that were low indicate, that the times that were studied, it was not peak, and that includes the midday on Saturday.
Okay. Thank you. Any-
I have one more
Please do.
question when we say low, because I believe we've had this discussion at other traffic studies, but the modeling that you both have used, take the situation you see, right, off of the counts you get for that weekend and those times, and I think of it as like the water studies, right? We plan for the 100-year flood. Like you're able to play with those numbers and say, okay, so something's changed and we're gonna eke it up a certain percentage, or do you just stick with the count numbers you see at those peak times?
So we don't play with numbers.
Okay.
We estimate
Do you know what I mean?
future
Not
volume.
play, like
No,
modeling.
you're right. We estimate future volumes as traffic engineers.
Yep.
Based on projections that are listed by the state, or it's if you look at permanent count station, the increase in traffic over that time.
Yep.
Pedestrians generally, and this is just coming from us, aren't generally affected drastically by the 7 years. But we're also, as traffic engineers, we look at the impacts to vehicle traffic. Pedestrian concerns come about when you get into high volumes, and then we do a specific traffic or pedestrian analysis. However, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was under 10 pedestrians per hour, in my opinion, does not warrant any significant study or analysis.
Ken, can I allow him to?
Yeah.
Derek?
I
Derek?
just want to add to that, we also do correction factors to the volumes, such as seasonal adjustments and COVID. Of late, we've been doing these COVID adjustments as
Yeah.
well. So we don't just use the raw data we get, we
Yeah.
do make corrections to it.
I think that's what's been helpful in the past for me to see, is that kind of modeling that your systems allow you to do, or not
Yeah.
evident in these numbers when we kind of
Yeah,
just talk
and
about it.
just to refresh your memory, the All Town, we did a traffic
Yes,
study
that's what I was thinking.
during shutdown.
Right.
Guess what? They came back and did it afterwards. Guess what? You had to do it that way. Okay? That's how, and we're starting to see the level of service that was predicted
Yeah.
back then. And as an aside, the public health advisory was mailed to the town residents on the 8th of September.
Good. Any further questions from the board? Any further questions from the public for either? Yes, ma'am. And identify yourself and,
I'm sorry?
I said identify yourself and your address and please, and state your question loudly so we can all hear it.
Okay, Kathy had 12 Wright Road. And I still have concerns with this. When the counts were done, were they just projected at intersections? Or were they, for instance, was there one on Wright Road? So that people that would like walk down Wright Road and up Wright Road, or bike down, kids coming down the street, going back up, were those, did that eliminate that facet of it? The volume of traffic, like, I can't imagine another 400 cars going by my house every day, going down, and there isn't much you can do with Wright Road, and there's nothing you can do with Snake Hill, because it's narrow, there's ponds on either side, and it's a lot for us to sustain here, that's all.
I think that, but was there a question in that? I think at the
There
first.
was
What
at
was
the
it?
beginning,
What was
yeah.
it?
There was.
Concerns, just
Could-
concerns.
Could you address the concerns that she has? Well, yeah, you want to start, Derek?
Sure. I mean, the 400 cars a day might seem like a lot as 400, but as we break it down into the peak hours, like we were looking at before, 40 cars in the peak hours, 1 to 2 cars every, car every 1 to 2 minutes, and that level of increase of traffic usually goes unnoticed by residents.
Okay, so if I'm trying to get out of my driveway and there's a car coming down or up the street every 1 or 2 minutes, how long do I have to wait to get out of my driveway?
I would argue that you could get out within 1 minute.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to come to the board meeting and present. We appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Do you have to make any kind of motion to accept the
Yeah,
results?
exactly. Or is it just part of our deliberations?
I
in
think
the
it's
next meeting?
part of the deliberations. Now, I did send the full traffic report to the board.
Yeah.
However, without the help of an IT person, I will need help to get this up on the town website, which I'd like to do, which is the new study that just came out. But it's over 100 pages, so.
Should be between 96 and 124.
Okay, great. So with that said, our discussion of the traffic study is closed for this meeting. Thank you for your presentations, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to invite the engineer to discuss. I'm sorry.
Can these gentlemen leave? Or
Yes.
do you
Oh, yeah.
prefer that
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
stay?
Yeah. That's.
Unless there are any further questions for them.
They don't want to
clarify
stay.
one
They don't
thing.
want to
Okay,
stay.
hold 1 second,
Oh,
Mr.
wait,
Diskin, one clarification. So I apologize. What?
Not so fast.
For clarification with the board, this is for the board. This topic, I presume, is not going to be brought up again when we get to the definitive plan. We basically have done a traffic study now in the preliminary phase.
Right.
We're going to accept those results and carry them forward to the
Right,
definitive
though
plan.
in the definitive deliberation, we will be discussing off-site improvements and
Exactly.
improvements to the road,
Right.
which will be informed by the traffic studies.
Right.
But,
But in the past, we have, in some cases, we've bypassed preliminary plans in the past. We've done these traffic studies with the definitive plan.
right,
Yes.
yeah.
Now we, in essence, have done it a
Oh,
little
right,
bit different.
Yeah, we don't have to do it again.
You know?
No, we'll come back to look at this, maybe though, I don't know, I could see maybe a need for a little supplemental
Okay, I'm just,
thing, but not a full-blown traffic study.
no, I'm not, I don't think so either, but I'm just
No,
doing it for
right.
clarification.
If I may make a comment, Mr. Archambault, the town planner, actually worked very closely with some of the residents on putting together the requirements for this traffic study.
Yeah,
So I'd like to just make sure that that is also understood. That not only do we do it in the preliminary phases, but Mr. Archambault worked directly with folks who are neighbors to who are I can't say abutters, but neighbors who live in the area who had specific concerns. And part of the meeting we had, that's why I recognize you from Zoom, is during the meetings these were all brought out. So.
but I want to emphasize the
Yeah.
fact that this part is behind us. The next step would be traffic improvements to the street.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's
Other,
right.
Right.
You know, things we do with work with
Correct.
DPW, we work with the applicant's representative and so forth.
Exactly, yes.
To take a look at the project. In other words, this is only one step
Right,
in the
and
final
some of
analysis.
that, I mean, in addition, we have the traffic consultants, we will need to be hiring a engineering consultant too.
Right, exactly.
For the definitive plan. And that's where some of these things may come back.
Right.
But, I don't think it'll require a new traffic study per se.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, thank
I
you.
guess you just thank you. Start your engines.
Marion, the traffic discussion is closed.
ever get out to Worcester, or she was
Once in a while. No, Lisa's very much.
Telephone Collins was asking.
Yes, Ms. Stoddard.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, on behalf of Kenny Reed,
No.
No, we're not going to accept that. We're not going to have that read into the record. If Ms. Reed can show up for herself and speak for herself if she has concerns, but we're not going to add that into the record or add it to the agenda. Thank you. I believe you are going to show us some changes to the plan.
Yeah, and we'll keep you all of 5 minutes.
I'm gonna need Mark to guide me through this.
You pass that down to me.
Hit escape.
Ooh. Someone's doing
Each keyboard is different.
Oh, this.
Just minimize that.
Did the engineer just leave his USB here?
No.
Okay.
No, yeah, I saw Mark hand it back to him.
So while we're getting that set up, Mark, can you set up the context for this? What's happened here that we're having this discussion on this revised plan? What
Okay,
happened?
well, Mr. Dillis sent us a revised plan
Friday.
which I was not anticipating. So,
Very
caught
minor
me by
changes.
surprise.
There's some minor changes after much discussion and meeting with the applicant. We convinced him to make a couple of changes to the lot layout. And if you, well, I can do it with the pointer.
Yeah, don't
If
touch
you-
that screen. it'll
If
do
you
it.
remember before, there was
Yes.
There was
three
a cou-
lots
yeah, there
along
was
here.
some lots over
So
there.
we've moved everything over here, so now there's a half a mile of road along the pond where there are no lots. And that's really the only change that we wanted to show.
And that
Yeah,
will
we
be
did-
publicly held land.
And Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question, I did look this, I did notice when I was looking through them. I beat Mark up this morning for a paper copy because my computer screen is so big. It's not
We
cool.
have
It's
paper
cool.
copies.
It's cool. And it's okay, don't worry about it, Mark. But I couldn't figure out which ones were going to be the duplex units.
Oh, we did move the duplexes down. The duplex would be
Got it.
here and here
So they're
now.
on the southern portion.
Yep,
of the property.
that's
Thank you
correct.
very much. I just, going through it, trying to get my
Wanna
job
make it
done
happen by
today,
11.
reading all this, going through the traffic study, I couldn't find them quickly. Thank you very much, Stan.
And I apologize, it took,
it's cool.
well, no, for the revisions, it took a lot of convincing of the applicant to make these changes. So.
It definitely
and
did.
This was, I guess I'd say like pulling teeth.
Yes.
A little bit, but
Yes.
we now have that, it's a half a mile of roadway there where there's nothing on the side of the pond.
And that'll be all open space,
And
which
that
will
is
actually be
the open
nice.
space that faces Long Pond.
Long
And there
Pond,
were some
that's
concerns there, so that's, so you've eliminated those lots that would cross over into those area of controversy, that's gone. But I also understand that overall, now the entire developed area represents only 18.8 acres.
That's right.
And the open space area now represents 148.36
I was
acres.
wrong. I shouldn't count on my
Oh,
fingers.
no, what is it now?
133.8.
133.8.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I
And I
shouldn't
think-
count on my
I
fingers.
think there was some confusion on Bar's part because there was a.
There was a
on the
parcel with
previously-
bad title.
Asking an attorney to count.
Yeah, well,
Except
you
for
know.
ours.
Exactly. Yes, except
So that's
ours.
133.
133.8, I am told by
Right.
the engineer.
Right.
All right, so it's we got an extra acre.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I know we're in preliminary mode now, and I do appreciate the effort's been taken to move it away from the east, the pond side. I'm going to assume also that any wastewater treatment that might have stormwater
Stormwater.
is going to get moved out of that area also.
That's
supposedly.
our goal.
That's
our
the goal. Thank you. I know you
Yeah.
can't give it to me now, but
Right, we have to go back, now that we have some
Hand in glove.
some consensus on the configuration and the shape, now we can go back and do soil testing that'll find
Yeah.
areas that are sufficient to accept the stormwater.
because I mean,
Those
I-
two areas that you see off in space
Yep.
are areas that had acceptable soils previously
Mhm.
for runoff, so we knew that those worked. And as I said in a previous meeting, I didn't want to show something to the board that we couldn't do.
No, I appreciate
And until
that.
we had some consensus on the layout, it seemed like a spinning of our wheels to go out there and do that.
Could you show us the plan that compares the
Sure.
current road layout with the proposed changes that you just submitted?
has any of the red lines on it? That one?
Yes, that one.
I think it's way down towards
It's
the
like,
end.
yeah, that one. I don't know what you call them, but
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's
Oops,
it.
yeah, there it is. So the red lines on this plan are what was previously approved.
So
Here's the
lot
original
lines and
40 house lots.
roadway.
With it was
35.
35.
It
the
was
original
35.
35 house lot.
It
We
was-
never got that number out of you the first day.
So
Yeah, 35.
that was the old conventional 2-acre lots with, they took up,
And the pond is to the right.
and the
in this
pond
one.
is over here.
Yep.
So now what you see in dark with the numbers, that's the new proposal
Thank
for
you.
the shape of the subdivision.
Thank you.
And it reduces it from about 60 acres to 18.8 of lot area for the
Is that-
same number of lots.
And the road length, do you happen to know the number of the
The
reduction?
road length is
Think of-
about
I think it's about 2,200 feet
2,200 feet
shorter.
less.
Right, from the previous peak of the road as it's laid out and visible now to the proposed design, which is this black right here.
Right.
That's correct.
It's about 2,000 feet less road.
Okay.
And by this configuration at the intersection hasn't changed, but it's about 500 feet of that boulevard entrance till you go around what essentially is just a big cul-de-sac. It's a big loop, but it's essentially
Yep.
essentially like a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, in a sense.
Yes,
Well, it's a loop. So
it's a loop. Okay. Now, we did get these rather late, and I wouldn't expect everyone to have exhaustive comments, but I just want to open it up to the board. If you have any comments while the engineer is here for us, and I know we'll have lots to talk about during the definitive plan, but I just want to say, just cursory, yeah, I'm very pleased to see the change. I think this is yet another improvement, so I'm glad to see it.
I asked my question about where the duplexes were going to go, so.
You got that? Anyone else?
Well, the lot sizes, I mean, it's pretty evident that, can you just give us, Stan, I know it off the top of my head, but I'd rather have you do it, a comparison of the typical lot size of the new project versus the typical lot size of the original project?
Oh, yeah, they're.
In square footage.
The previously approved lots, I believe were.
They were 80,000 square foot
82-acre
lots.
lots. And most of these are
20.
between 1/2 and 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah.
So 20 to 30.
The ones on the southern side are actually smaller than that.
Those
And the
ones-
ones are on the outside of the loop are about 20,000 square feet or less. The ones on the inside are a little bigger because there's just more room there.
Oh, I must
How many
have read
acres
wrong.
of
I thought there were
turf won't get
15, some
planted?
15 to
Pardon me?
20,000.
How many
Some
acres
of them
turf
drop
get
down
planted?
to that, that's correct, when you get to the southerly side of the power lines.
You got that plan over there, Mark, for a second?
Some of them drop down to like 15, 18,000
There's some that
square
are
feet.
down to 10,000.
No, in
Oh,
fact,
okay. So,
if you don't mind, so before I distribute these to the board, I need to stamp them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna go get my stamp.
All right.
If it comes to the deep Anissa thing.
I can
Okay,
start that.
I'll be right back.
So Ken, here's a,
The square footages kind of up on the board now.
if you look at
okay, yeah.
C 2.0, 2.1, that's 20,000, that's 16, that's 16, that's 16, that's 22, it's got a duplex on
That's
it,
a
that's 8.
duplex.
And those are in the middle. In the middle, there's more space.
So
There's
that-
14,000 right there.
So what I'm getting at is that it goes like from about 15 to 30, 35.
Maybe on a couple of those in the upper loop on the inside, but there's nothing that's even close to an acre.
Yeah, they're all below an acre.
3/4 or less.
Okay.
Most of them are 1/2 an acre or less.
Look what an OSRD allows you to do in a minimum acre
Yeah.
zoning.
Questions? Questions from the public? Yes, if you would introduce yourself, name and address first.
Carolyn McCreary, 6 Wachusett. And, everything that these changes that you've made, I think are great, and, I like the idea that the lot sizes are smaller. My question sort of doesn't have to do with that, but it has to do with, the affordable units. I mean, I really applaud that there are affordable units here. The thing that bothers me a little bit, though, is that the affordable units are different. you know, somebody can look around and say, oh yeah, that's an affordable unit because it's a duplex. I mean, is there a way to have 4 affordable units that are not different from the others? You know, I don't really know how affordability works in, you know, in terms of, you know, who supports the, you know, the lower cost or whatever. I just feel like it's a visual discrimination, and if we can prevent that, that would be great.
Comments, please, Mr.
Yeah,
Collins?
so the one thing I do want to tell you, my client has built duplexes and single families. A number of years ago, there's a project known as Deer Haven in Groton off of Route 40. And we have inclusionary zoning, and I defy anybody to drive through there and tell me which is the duplex. They look like a single family home. They look comparable to everything else in the development. Now, that having been said, I would not be opposed to doing 4 singles that'd be the same. We'd have to add 2 lots somewhere, and realistically, the only place you could add, well, you might be able to divide that one in half at the beginning.
Maybe.
I mean, we'll certainly look into that, because I would not be opposed to that, but the one thing I would say is if he does build the duplex, it won't look different from the other homes, it'll look the same.
Yeah, the thing that adds the
Yeah.
affordability is the fact that it's a duplex.
Yeah, that helps, it does help.
Because
Smaller size.
it's a smaller size, and it cuts down on construction costs because there's 3 units in one space.
But they do look comparable, I will say. And if you drive through, you go over the development behind Shaw's, and drive down Hummingbird Lane, 50-50, half of singles, half of duplexes, and they really were all beautiful. But drive down Route 40 someday, going to Deer Haven, if you can figure out which is the duplex, call me.
Yeah, we're,
As a general comment,
Oh, when you get
I
one.
do recommend that people take a look at the Rocky Hill development in Groton to give you an idea of what a molten property looks like and what it looks like. And you get to see things that are completely finished and happened for a while, but you can also drive around and see where it's under current development. You can judge for yourself the standard of care that's there. I mean, you can see it for yourself. And so I encourage anyone's interested to take a look.
And I value the comment about making them visually, not visually distinctive, but I don't think we've seen an elevation yet.
Yeah, and we'll bring you
Yeah,
plans.
I mean,
with the
we haven't even gotten that, we haven't seen elevations yet or anything like that.
Okay. I'm sorry, was there a question? Did you have a question, ma'am? Oh, okay, thought I saw a raised hand. Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie had 14 Wright Road.
If you could speak louder, please.
Yeah, Stephanie had 14 Wright Road. Just to clarify, the gentleman from Van Ness, I don't know if he misspoke or he said it was 33 lots and 33 singles and 4 duplexes.
That's right, so 35 lots, 2 of the lots have duplexes on them.
And there was
So
4.
we're not talking 4 duplexes
No.
of 2
No,
units.
4
It's
duplex
actually
units.
8.
4
No.
duplex units. So 2 duplexes. with
2
4
duplexes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's 33
Thir-
lots
thir-
and 35 residents.
35 lots and 37.
37 residences, so 35 lots total, 37 residences
Not
total.
41.
That's right.
Speak into the microphone, Bob.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, good. Yes, Jess?
Jessica Gino, Mountain View. Just a question on at what point during the process, I know you're not talking about the traffic now, but at what point do you talk about the dead-end situation of this neighborhood in terms of resident safety? Because it's, you get a few trees down on Snake Hill after Calvin Street, and what is the alternate access for fire equipment or emergency services? I did look, just do a very rough count. This would be the most pressured population behind a single entrance exit in Ayer. Autumn Ridge has, I don't have the numbers here, but like 60 residents access through a single road that does not have trees on either side. The Rosewood Avenue neighborhood would be well below the numbers of this neighborhood once this development is done. Has a single entrance into that neighborhood, but then many cross streets. So this would be functionally 3 dead ends.
Right, and just the way I would answer that would be that's exactly why we have it reviewed by our emergency services, fire, police, et cetera, to address exactly those issues and for them to decide whether that's a significant public safety risk.
And at what point does that happen?
Has it already happened?
Yes, yes. Yes, and the police and fire department had no comment.
No comment.
Correct.
Hey, Jess, could you clarify what you said about this being the most dense and so forth, what you were evaluating there?
I'm looking at the access to Stratton Hill.
Yeah.
Like the access to all of us who live in there is through Snake Hill Road, which dead ends.
Right.
Down to Wright Road, which dead ends. Stratton Hill will dead end. Even if you call it a cul-de-sac or a loop, you're basically talking, you know, in my view, a few trees down on Snake Hill Road or at the very beginning of Wright Road, you have a large population trapped back there.
Okay.
That's my concern as a resident.
Okay.
Being one who would be trapped back there.
So I just want to make a quick comment on that. So I took a close look at the whole town myself on this issue. And
I feel like I'm in the way.
it's very valid that the question of the bridge and so forth, but I'm not so sure that we can control that, in this board, that we can control that distance without the fire department's approval, of course. But there are other neighborhoods in town that have long dead ends, surprisingly.
This would be the highest.
You think so?
Yep.
What about Rosewood Drive?
I looked at that, it would still be below this, but as I say, Rosewood has a single short entrance.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a problem right there, then you've got a lot of cross streets that allow different avenues.
Got it,
into
okay.
that.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, that was the next biggest one.
Did you look at Bennett's Crossing as well?
Actually, I might not have on that one.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at that one.
That loop is 2,600
Yeah.
2,600 feet around the loop.
And I only say this as a point I raised at a previous meeting, which
Yeah.
is that the town decided to close off one day a year for the 4th of July at Peroni Park because of public safety
Yeah,
concerns.
yeah.
And this would be 365 days of the year.
Yeah. that's
So
good.
I'm not saying don't do anything, but it's like, are there other measures that could be taken that would provide comfort to the neighborhood that they wouldn't be stranded during an event with increasing storms that we all have,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of trees in this neighborhood, so.
As a planner, I believe that will be mostly dealt with at the definitive plan stage. I know it sounds sort of like a cop-out, but the planning board's jurisdiction in a preliminary is somewhat limited, so, it's not the type of preliminary plan stage is not where we put all these conditions and all that sort of thing. Though the planning board should give a sense of the waivers when voting on the preliminary plan. And the sense of the waivers could include the dead-end road length, if everybody agrees that that road system, despite its cul-de-sac nature, is effectively a dead end. And so that's one of the things that will come up. But as far as mitigating the safety issues, yeah, definitely in the definitives.
Thank you.
Good. Yes, Julie.
If you don't mind. I sit here wearing 2 hats, right? I'm on this board, but I live that street. And when we talk about the traffic study, which I won't reopen, but when I hear those numbers, I know it was my son running down the road as I drove here tonight. And I yelled at him to slow down running because, yeah. So I'm just saying I feel both ways. And so, I'm seeing this in many lenses. And Jess, when you ask a question about what does the fire department and police safety think about this, I know what you meant when you said police and fire say no comment. It feels a little harsh and abrupt, but I've had a long conversation with both the police department and the fire department before this was even on our agenda months and months ago. And so I'm not going to speak for them. I think I would do that as a disservice, but they have many comments and many concerns, and they have looked at it very thoroughly, but have felt that in response to this plan, no comment is appropriate, and that there is a public safety concern with our street, and they feel they address it at all times, and that this, like the traffic study, isn't causing a significant change, right? It's like that number and the significance piece, statistically significant, is that what I want to be using? So again, I'm not going to speak for the fire department tonight, but I would at least like to amplify their sentences and their answers, and their understanding of this project and their response to our street is much longer and lengthier.
So will they be making those as comments at some point?
If they determine that's necessary, they will.
Yeah,
I think that, if I don't mean to put words in Julie's mouth, but I understand that no comment means, she's clarifying what that means. No comment does not mean what it means when you're watching television and a politician says no comment. They just want to avoid the issue. When we have an official document and DPW or fire or police writes no comment, they mean they've reviewed it and they see no issues to raise with what's been presented to them. That means they've reviewed it and it looks good to them. They said, we don't have anything to add to this.
And
So it's a different. am I
At that
right?
point in time.
It is.
At that point in
On
time.
that-
Yeah, and
on
I would
that
add
too.
too,
And
that
we
was,
have comments about the rest of the
Yeah,
road
we have
network,
a-
but this particular addition to that doesn't elicit a comment.
we have an interdepartmental comment process where whenever we get a site plan or a subdivision, we circulate that edition of the plan to all the major departments in town, including police, fire, DPW, et cetera. And they get us a little written comment on a form where they have concerns. So, again, they knew this was a preliminary plan and they knew the basics of it, so I don't want to read into their, no comment at this stage might be more appropriate. But when we do the definitive plan, we recirculate that plan
Yep.
to everybody again,
Right.
because there'll be changes perhaps. And, we can try to pull out more from them perhaps, at that point.
And
Yes,
if,
Jeff?
if I may add one more comment, similar to Julie, I've also spoken to our new chiefs on both sides of the public safety fence. They're wicked aware of this project. They're paying attention to it all the time. They really are. So, I do expect them to have a continued role in the process.
Good to hear.
No, they're
Yeah.
talking to Brian they're wicked aware of this one.
And I'd be wicked appreciative if they express comments at the appropriate time down the road, so that we know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Does the board have any further questions or comments for Mr. Dillis? Thank you, sir.
That was a short
Thank you.
5 minutes.
Appreciate your.
So, yeah,
Mr.
so,
Collins.
but one thing I want to tell you, we can't come back in 2 weeks because Stan and I are both stuck in front of
Oh,
the
really?
Groton Conservation Commission that night.
Oh, shoot.
So, if you could either do a meeting out of sequence, we're starting a problem that we had a year or so ago. So we've got several things
Yeah.
now that are going to be running along the way in Groton that are going to conflict with your meeting schedule because Groton Conservation Commission meets the same night that the Air Planning Board does.
Now,
Do we have an extension?
well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the current extension letter we
Yeah.
have is to the end of October.
That's right.
We need,
So I'll have to give you another one. But are you meeting on Election Day?
No,
No.
we're meeting on the 9th, the day after election.
Okay, so if we could continue this to the 9th, that would be great. And I'll get you a letter tomorrow,
Sure.
giving you through, what's your second meeting in November gonna be? You're gonna have
If
two
I may-
meetings?
We're always second and fourth.
Second and fourth, so it'll be
And-
the fourth Tuesday.
So the Tuesday before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we-
And if I
Alright.
may, just so you know, I know you're on a tough schedule in Groton because
Yeah,
we have so many meetings happening now
Yeah.
that in order to move our meeting
Yeah,
is a
it's
real
terrible.
challenge.
Yeah, oh,
So
and
we
I
can do
know.
that.
I can make.
If you can make the 9th, that will work.
Yeah,
nice.
we can do the 9th, which would be
Okay.
just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if we were, I was thinking, before you just said this, I was thinking it might be possible for the board to act on the preliminary plan on the 25th.
Yeah.
But of course, we don't want to do that when you're not here.
Yeah, we
That would
can't
not
be here that
That would
night.
not be fair. And also the Conservation Commission's, conservation recommendations will be issued for the 25th.
For that, so it'll give you time to
So we'll have-
digest
we'll have
it,
to
yeah.
We'll
digest
talk
that,
about you
but-
when you're not here.
Well, that's right, and it'll give us a chance to respond to anything they might
All right,
have a concern
all right.
with.
All
So
right,
I'll get
so-
you a letter, extending the deadline through the second Tuesday of
That would be
November.
great, in case we can't make a decision on the 9th.
The fourth,
I mean, the fourth, excuse me,
Fourth
the fourth
Tuesday in
Tuesday
November.
of November,
Thank
but
you.
we'll see you on the 9th,
The 9th.
which is a
It's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
No meetings are allowed on election day.
Election day, yep. Yeah, I
And
was
that
lucky
will be
this
just,
one was
and that's
available.
fine with you, right?
Did you decide it was
Okay.
Wednesday when I skipped the meeting?
yes.
I'm with it.
All right, so November 9th.
That's my mom's 70th birthday. I'll spend it.
She's just a kid.
Just
Yeah, she's
perfect.
just a kid.
And just as with this evening, there's a possibility there, actually not a possibility, there will be another site plan on the 9th.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But it's a fairly, it's S.J. Mulaney, 22 Fitchburg Road, site plan amendments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be that complicated.
All right, well,
Thank you very much.
thank you so
Are we gonna
much.
discuss the
Wait,
Mr.
wait,
Meatball?
well, I want to talk about that. Well,
We're not
Mr.
done.
We're
Oh,
not
oh.
done. Well, wait, Mr.
Here,
Collins.
there's our agenda.
You may
So I
not
want to
leave.
ask the
Lisa
board
Meatball.
this question. I want to ask the board this question. Would you like to continue the discussion of MISA MIPA that we began at the last meeting now? Or, given that we're going to have a little bit more flexibility at the next meeting, because they won't be attending and we will not come to a deliberative, to a vote, would it make more sense to talk about MESA and MIPA in the context of the Conservation Commission's report recommendations to us on the 25th?
Well, it might make more sense to do it on the 9th when we're.
I mean, the 9th. I'm
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
no, the 20, let me back up. So the 25th of this
Yeah.
month, we have a little bit more liberty, because you're not going to be there,
Yeah.
we're not going to come to a vote, which enables us to have a more extensive discussion. So the opportunity is we can have the MISA MIPA discussion on the 25th, when we may also have some further input from Concom at the same time, which would be relevant, and it might be more productive to do that conversation all at once, rather than to break it apart, having the MISA MIPA continue today, and then, does that make sense to everybody?
No.
No, okay, Mr. Diskett says no. Okay.
Yeah,
This-
and we could have somebody
no.
from Dillis and Roy here on the 25th.
So these questions that are answered in the summary by
Right.
Mr. Rauschenberg, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
These questions have been outstanding for over a year.
Okay.
I don't think there's a minute left to postpone this any further. I think we need to put this discussion that was
She can
held
I
in the
get a
record.
copy of
Okay.
Yeah, there.
Thank you.
And take it from there.
Okay.
At the minimum, we should at least get it in the record.
could-
Then we can
could
discuss
read-
it later.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to read this into the record, if
Okay.
that's okay?
Yeah, first of all, I'll just preface it, because we're throwing all these acronyms around, and I'm sure not everybody knows. Okay, one key aspect of permitting this project, because it's located within an ACEC, which is an area of critical environmental concern. When you have a large project going into a ACEC, it triggers two things at the state level. One is the, they look for endangered species, which is the Mass Endangered Species Act, which is MISA. And the sort of the sister side of that is called the Mass Environmental Policy Act. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jess or Heather. Mass Environmental Policy Act, or MIPA. So those are two concurrent state-level permits issued by agencies of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that pertain to this property, and for which they will need to get renewed permits, or whatever, to cover those two processes, MIPA and MISA. And there was quite a bit of confusion as to the legal status of these, and so in order to, understand this better, several of us had a discussion with Lauren Glorioso, who's the Endangered Species Review Biologist at the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program.
If I may, Mark?
Yes.
So let me explain who it is. So this was a input informational session. There was no quorum from either the Conservation Commission or a quorum of the Planning Board. So representing the Planning Board was myself, Mr. Diskin, and the Town Planner, Mark Archambault. Representing the Conservation Commission was the agent, Heather Hampson, plus Jessica Gino and John Schmallenberger. I don't think I've left anyone out, have I? And then,
Town manager was there.
what's that?
Yeah, town manager.
Oh, Town Manager Robert Pombrian was there, and of course, we were there to speak to and hear from Lauren Glorioso, who is the Endangered Species Review Biologist of Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, which is Divisions of Fisheries and Wildlife. And she was extremely generous with her time and was able to provide some clear answers to many of our questions about the status of these permits and what would be the rational and lawful next steps. So these following notes are collected from that conversation, in particular from Lauren Glorioso's recommendations and advice and even directives. These notes, shall I just go ahead with? So the notes included, the first of all, remember that the overall property that belongs to Mr. Moulton crosses town lines, Groton and Ayer. So the Rocky Hill, which is the Groton site, and the Stratton Hill Ayer site were permitted together in 2005. From their perspective, it's one project. And this is very important because this relates to another issue further down, which is the idea of segmentation. Well, couldn't there be a separate permit for Ayer and a separate permit for Groton? And the answer we got was no. From natural heritage point of view, it's one project, it gets one permit. So that's the first thing that we want to clarify. One thing that's happened is that the initial 2005 permit was not renewed. So it went through a period of expiration and then renewal. So the question came is the process ahead for us to renew the older one or to initiate a new one? And Ms. Glorioso was adamant that Natural Heritage did not want to start from scratch with a new one, but preferred and recommended, what were the exact words? Extension and amending the original permit. This is important, and I'll read this directly from the notes. Because mitigation ratios became effective in a 2010 rule change, and the spotted turtle has since dropped off the threatened species list, there is more robust land protection required under the existing 2005 permit than if the applicant were to start a totally new permit application. Translated, that means that the town has greater protection and control with the older one rather than initiating a new one. That's important. A permit under the new rules would likely result in the need to set aside less land under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, MESA, than before. Therefore, amending the 2005 permit provides greater environmental protection. There were issues with, as part of the permitting processes, Mr. Moulton agreed to construct 2 Blandings turtle nesting sites, and they're not built yet. And this is something that's a work in progress, I believe, being negotiated with Audubon, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, what is it, National, what are the official title?
Mass Audubon.
Mass Audubon, and that's a work in progress. What's important to understand is that the applicant owner must have the Blandings turtle nesting sites constructed before she will sign off on a permit renewal.
No, and I
And that's
understand that,
understood.
yeah, because we've met with Lauren
And just
ourselves.
there's a few more things about the turtles. Winter's the best time to do the work. This should not be done under the power line right-of-ways. I don't think anyone's surprised about that. And that Mass Audubon and/or Fish and Wildlife should oversee the location and construction of these turtle nesting areas. In terms of the formal process for MEPA, the applicant needs to file for a notice of project change, what they have not done yet. Remember, they want to do this, the extension and the amendment together. Here's what she said. However, it makes the most sense for them to submit such when they have their preliminary plan approval in hand, as the limits of disturbance will likely be set by such approval. So I know this is going to sound a little backward, but what Lauren Gloriosa from National Heritage wants is the approval, to see a decision on the preliminary plan first before to complete the extension and amendment to the permit, which will be a preliminary to the approval of the definitive. I know it's a little bit
That's correct,
complicated, but I hope we're all there.
No, we had met with Lauren a year ago
Yes.
last month and laid out this whole schedule.
Right.
So we were aware of all of
We
this.
held the meeting because there was a lot of confusion internally
Yeah.
and amongst, you've heard.
Well, it's confusing.
Yeah, it is, and, so, anyway, sorry.
I mean, that's the gist of it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some further notes and details about the ratio of open space to, what is the ratio, the mitigation ratio? What does that mean?
3 to 1 versus 2 to 1.
Yeah, it means that if you disturb X square feet, you have to replicate or provide as protected land a certain square footage.
So the mitigation ratio is actually higher under the 2005 permit, which is 3 to 1, than under a
Right,
brand
they
new one
actually
initiated
decrease
today
it.
would be 2 to 1.
Yeah.
So that would be a
Yeah,
decrease.
right.
So again, Lauren's recommendation was that we extend and amend, or the applicant apply
Yeah.
for an extension amendment to the 2005 permit.
Yep, and that was our intention, yeah.
Yep.
Jess, did you want to offer any other, Jess was a participant in the meeting and contributed to notes. Did you want to add anything?
Just the detail that filing the notice of project change
Yes.
will trigger a MEPA review, the Environmental Policy Act review, which would have a public comment period. And Natural Heritage doing the MESA, Conservation Management Permit, won't issue the extension and amendment
Until that's
they
done.
receive a certificate from MEPA, the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So there is a comment period open to the public under MEPA review.
Thank you, Jess. See, it's simple. Water off a duck's back. I mean, wow, it's a lot. Questions from the board?
There's a couple more paragraphs you want to.
I summarized them.
Okay.
I mean, that's why I asked Jess if there's anything else.
I think you did a pretty good job of summarization.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, in our case, not new information, certainly.
Yeah, actually, in conversations with the members who were there, this is new to us in Ayer.
Yeah, yes.
But, and the non-segmentation, the fact that MISA, MIPA, and NHESP doesn't see town lines because they see
That's
animal
right.
habitat.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of
Yeah, it's
once you
interesting.
hear it, kind of makes
Makes sense, but no, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
and the comment that, I don't know if this is good or bad, but, and this is secondhand, this is not new to NHESP.
Yeah,
Right. They've been doing this for
yeah,
20, 15 years.
yeah. And
It was new on our side.
And
of
I
the
will
fence.
say, Lauren is very familiar with the site, as is her boss, as was his boss, because we very carefully negotiated out this whole thing 20 years ago. It was a series of meetings that took 6 months.
Right.
So they probably got a greater familiarity for this site than most other sites, because they really worked on this long and hard.
I would suspect so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, unless you need us, we'll get out of your hair.
Move to continue?
Yes, I need a motion to
I'd
continue.
like to move to continue the hearing on Stratton Hill until, I believe, the first meeting in November. Am I correct?
The
Are
ninth.
we gonna,
November
But the
9th.
are we gonna
Conservation
debate
Commission.
internally on the?
Boy.
Does that give us liberty, though, to have some discussions about
Well, then,
Stratton Hill issues?
I
on
would
the
say, if you plan on discussions on the 25th.
I
we
move to
should
the
move
next,
it to the
mo- I
25th.
move
Yeah.
to
Thank you.
continue the public hearing, Stratton Hill preliminary subdivision plan, 35 lots off of Wright Road, until the next scheduled planning board meeting.
And what we can do, if you wish, is get Seth Donahoe, who actually drafted our conservation analysis.
Oh,
He could come to the
okay.
meeting.
Actually, that
perhaps.
would be good, because we will have just received the Conservation
Yeah,
Commission.
so why don't we
So at
see
least
if we can do that?
We can discuss that, that'll make the 9th all the more.
Yeah,
productive.
that's right.
Will you
Okay.
have that before the 25th, so we have a chance to look at it?
Oh, yeah, in fact, the Conservation Commission's meeting this Thursday, I believe.
So will you get me a copy of it when it's available?
Yeah, just talk to them.
So the draft is on the website now.
Oh, it is?
Information packet, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it is,
So-
okay.
Good,
All
okay.
right.
All right.
I second you to email it to you, you can look it right from there.
Can you email it to me?
So,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
email it to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and then, if they vote on them.
Yeah.
All right.
I can send you the form back
Good.
to someone.
Okay.
so I believe we have a motion and a second for the continuation of the public hearing.
Until the next planning
Until the
board
next planning board meeting, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, chair votes aye, it's unanimously decided, thank you.
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
Town
Stay
planner
warm.
update.
Sorry,
Wait for
one
it.
moment, it's very.
Oh.
I have a note to go about Halloween, and I shouldn't have.
So-
Last year, you told me about Halloween.
Oh, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just read, it's behind us now, but the letter from Attorney Collins that came to us today, we might want to include that in the package for the next meeting also.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Did you make note of that?
Yeah, I have it as part of the official.
It has no consequence on what we just did.
No, no,
But I think
it's
Mr.
really
Collins-
just introducing the,
Yeah.
the new plan that they showed us.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay, town planner update is, the building commissioner informs me that I believe the final permits have been pulled, building permits have been pulled for Shaker Mill Pond, and I think it's as well as Littleton Road, John Carroll Reserve. So those two are moving right along. As far as future planning board meetings, we have 22 Fitchburg Road with the Shop and Save site coming in for some minor changes, which warrant site plan amendment. So that will be scheduled for the 9th, since there has to be a little bit of lead time for the public hearing and all that.
The public hearing announcement, is that what you're saying?
Right, yeah, the notice.
Do we have, we have to notice for amendment,
You know,
site plan? No, I
Did
don't think
we?
so.
I actually was trying to think which one
Yeah, I'm
we
trying
had
to
had in the
remember.
past where we actually had a notice for a hearing for an amendment. I don't know. My gut tells me no, but honestly, Mr. Diskin, I did not crack the book to find out.
I gotta
Okay.
look. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. It's almost better to be safe than sorry.
You know, the problem
And
with that
actually,
is
shop
it's
and,
about a notification and all that stuff, right?
well, I know, I need to read
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rules and regs.
I seem to think we didn't require it in the past because the
Yeah.
the hurdles that have to go, and when you've got a project in swing, it's a challenge.
Yep.
I'll
will
leave
check.
it up to Mark to figure
Yeah,
it out.
So-
and
Thanks, Mark.
that one has generated some interest around the town too.
Right, so
What's
for
going on
those reasons, it might be
Yeah.
better to
Thanks.
put a notice out.
Sorry, Mr. Chair,
No,
but
no problem at
I
all.
was racking
Yep.
my brain trying
Thank
to figure
you.
that out.
Yep. So that's the biggest one right now, and I anticipate an application from the soya tofu, you know, in the next
Anytime.
few weeks, but
Yeah.
they're working on it. We had a land use meeting with them, it went very well. It's a large project, but
I
it's,
bet.
it's way in the back there where nobody will see it, so that's.
Do you know,
that's
is
nice.
it more tofu? Do you know what they're actually making with
It's,
the facility?
I think refrigeration units, large refrigeration units and storage. So they'll be
And
making more tofu.
don't forget-
They need to put it somewhere.
Way in the back there's
Heather says way
Oh, I
more
know.
tofu.
It's a, I think it's a thing, and I don't mean to misspeak, I believe it's like a it almost doubles their, from what I remember, it almost doubles their capacity.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's a lot of soybeans.
yep.
Okay.
Keep
Yes.
those industrial jobs
Anything
coming.
else on the town planner?
No, that's what I have now, and I'll work to get this on the website so everybody, I mean, I sent it to everybody. I'll
You
put
sure
this on
did.
the website.
Yeah, it's a monster.
I know.
It's a bandwidth choking beast.
It is.
Okay, so the town planner update, I'm assuming you've asked your questions. So we've deferred August 9th because I need some further input on the conclusion of the meeting, and we're going to resolve that. So it's noted that we're going to do that. So I wanted to ask, is everyone ready? Can we approve the meetings for August 23rd? Did you all see the suggested revisions
Yes.
I sent?
Oh, the
Yes.
minutes.
The minute, what did I say?
The minutes.
I meant the minutes, whatever I said. I'm
Move to
sorry.
approve the meeting minutes for August 23rd, 2022 as amended.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 23 minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
I believe I have to recuse myself.
Okay, you weren't there. And chairman votes aye, so the
Abstain.
minutes are approved. So we have 4 ayes, 1 abstention. Old and new business, sir.
May I have a minute or two?
Yes, you may.
I am the representative liaison for the Affordable Housing Trust. I'd like to invite you all to join the Affordable Housing Trust meeting tomorrow evening. It's an in-person meeting here where Janet Povedakis will be giving a presentation for the Ayer Commons project over on Fitchburg Road. If you've seen the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I know I made this pitch last meeting, but please take the time to look at it. I think you'll be amazed at how much work has gone into where we are right now for Ayer Commons. That is also a warrant article in the upcoming town meeting, so getting the word out will help everybody get educated about it.
Thank you.
Number one. Number two, I am the liaison member of the Montrose Regional Planning Council, MRPC. They had a meeting. We had a meeting the other evening. I have to tell you guys, I love those meetings. They are bang, 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 get them done meetings. No, they're really good. And I've finally convinced the chair to stop calling me George something. We'd vote. It's like Jeff Tillotson votes aye. Gus would look down and he goes, I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. It's not an easy name.
But thank you for attending the
Yeah, I will
Appreciate
report
that.
back that.
George is always good to do these things for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks.
He looks like
But I will put together. There's really nothing that impacts us directly from the last meeting, and I'll do a summary for the next one. I was going to bring the agenda with me, and I realized there's nothing there. I mean, they percolate on. I will say one thing though, and I found this interesting. They allow members to vote on meeting minutes and meetings they weren't at.
Yes, that is.
And so it was an odd little twist. I of course then voted because I did miss the last meeting because we had our meeting competing against theirs. So no, and I will say one thing. Mr. Eaton is interested in workforce housing, and they've started a project talking about tiny homes. I had a chance to actually inform them that we have inclusionary zoning, we've got accessory dwelling units, and that we as a board have done some work on tiny home stuff. Nothing formal, but I did not actually volunteer the MVP's time, but I did say to Mr. Eaton through an email and to Karen Chapman through an email that they got questions, something I'm very interested in, I know other people in this room are very interested in. And they've started to look at other sources of information like Strong Towns. But with the explosion of employment that we expect to have happen on Devon's, 8,000 jobs in the next 24 to 36 months, the construction will be done. We need places for people to live. Affordable homes, not just rental units, but affordable to be owned homes as a first step into home ownership is something that MRPC is really looking at, especially for our area of our little region of this Commonwealth. So as you guys think about tiny homes or smaller footprint homes, they really haven't put it together yet, but they're putting some effort into that process. And that would be the only thing I would tell you from the meeting that was of interest to us. And I think it lines up pretty quickly with our OSRD stuff and the other stuff we've been doing.
Excellent.
Because it draws in questions about minimum parking requirements. It draws in questions about floor space ratios. And they're really in the entry level on it. But I'm intrigued.
Excellent.
Because towns past Devon's, towns past Shirley, this is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Workforce housing.
All right, thank you.
So thank you for letting me have a minute on,
course.
Mr. Chair.
Anyone else have any old or new business?
Did we get a, Mr. Chair, did we get a definitive that we have no articles in the fall town meeting as a board? We have no zoning articles.
No.
There are 4 articles on
CPC.
the town meeting.
Right.
The first 2 articles are street acceptances. So in truth, and I was actually at the select board meeting when they put the warrant together, so maybe if I can opine on this, Woodbine, is it Woodbine Ave? Woodbine Road?
That might be one of them.
There's an older one that we did a
Yeah.
while
And then
back,
there's Riley's.
and then there is the extension
Right.
that CJ's working on. The question from the select board chair, board member Livingston, was, how did the planning board vote on these?
Yep.
And I could not quote her exactly the vote because I was surprised by the question. And I think it was unanimous, the people in the room, that we accept the
Pingree Hill ones.
the Pingree Hill one was unanimous a while
Right.
ago, and I couldn't tell who was in the room because I
And
forgot it was that long.
In fact, on the 25th,
Yes.
2 weeks, we have the Bradley Jane extension.
Yeah, and we had made we had a 25th is the day after
No,
town
no,
meeting.
like-
I'm going to correct you, Mark. We
Oh, no,
we
I-
moved.
We voted on
we
the
moved
Bradley
and
with
voted.
conditions.
We moved and
Based on the
voted.
DPW letter.
Right.
If-
We
if-
voted,
so.
we voted in the affirmative with conditions based on the
Oh, okay.
DPW.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we voted before it went.
All right,
I'm going to remind you.
So.
I'm going to remind us, okay?
Dan
Okay.
Van
So-
Skelford asked us to take it to the affirmative pending his
Oh, yeah.
DPW punch list.
Right.
Dan Van Skelwick took it to the board to explain it to them.
Okay.
And it was explained to the select board. Ms. Livingston and Mr. Copeland were in the room. And it was explained that Dan is working closely with the applicant. The applicant recognizes they need to get it done. They're going to get it done. If it doesn't get done, it'll get pulled back on the floor of town meeting.
Right.
That's right.
And the planning board's motion covers that also.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
And that's why we ended up in the conversation about the other road.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry,
that's right.
I'm confusing the road names because it's so close to a road I used to live next to in my old hometown. There are 2 other articles on the warrant. There's an article for money to be taken from CPC in the amount of $400,000
Correct.
as a contribution towards the Ayer Commons project, which is, for those of you who live in town a long time, is the flag property on Fitchburg Road being turned into affordable workforce housing.
Mhm.
Then there's the last article, which is, I think, 32,000 and change, and please don't quote me on the amount of money, to recondition the howitzer that sits next to the town hall and bring it back up to snuff. And those are the 4 warrant articles. So we may be asked as a planning board, and the expectation is the chair will be available, or a member of the board will be available at the meeting. How did we vote? And Ms. Livingston asked if we could include the votes of the board. She asked Carly to write on the warrant how the planning board voted.
Yeah, well,
Hold on,
Oh,
please.
sure.
Let me get all the way through this. Our town clerk asked a question. If our minutes aren't approved in time for that to get written on the warrant before it was distributed, which was last week, we can't do it. So it was understood. So the chair may be asked at the meeting how the board voted on each one of the
Each vote?
on how we voted on each of the road acceptances.
there's only 2.
There's only 2.
No, I mean, no, she's not asking like how each one of us voted individually, whether we
No,
voted.
no.
Oh,
As
Three
a
to-
board, as a board.
as a
As a
board,
board.
we approved it, right?
Yeah. Well, she,
But-
Ms. Livingston has asked us that we include, that has requested that the vote be done 4-0, 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, how it was. Not by name, but by number.
Unanimous.
There's a question about transparency.
Okay. But is this just for the road acceptances? We didn't ever
Road
talk about.
acceptances.
The road
Okay, yeah, we're not
acceptance.
talking about the howitzer.
No, no, no.
Okay,
No.
just the roads, I'm just gonna say,
No.
I don't have an opinion on that.
You will, because.
You will know
because-
everything about the howitzer after that.
Because town meeting in the fall is typically planning, assumption is planning will be sitting on stage
Oh, boy.
or available to talk from the floor.
Facing north.
It's a
And
question.
you may
It's
have,
fun.
you may
No,
actually
I'm
have.
gonna wear a kilt for that meeting.
You may even have
Yeah.
you may even have a moderator who will put up with you guys sitting in the crowd. I don't know.
Yeah.
All
Find
right,
out.
whatever they want, I'll do.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a favor? Can you put the
George,
votes for
so
me so I
good.
know I don't look like a dork up there, so I can have the
Yeah.
numbers? Thank you.
Wow,
I know
Mr.
where my
Diskin.
confusion
I didn't expect to take all the thunder tonight in the new and
If you
old.
need them, I sent them to Robert last week. I can just forward you guys.
Thank you. Thank you
I
much for
already
your
have
help.
it done, it's just
Okay.
not a.
Yeah.
All right.
Was I hold
Uh,
up for
the-
it?
the-
Did you
Very
ask
simple.
for it last week?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
the reason for the vote numbers on it, a while back it came up, and warrant articles are sponsored
Yeah.
in Ayer,
Yeah.
but the sponsor suggests they're supporters of it.
Right.
No, the select board decides how the warrant lays out, and they become the de facto sponsor because they decide the layout of it and the language, if it's acceptable. And there's a gray area in understanding. So in order to be truly transparent, sponsored by, and the votes of the board when it happened. And that was a request, and it's a valid and fair request.
Okay.
But it is a little strange.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Heck, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you, guys.